Right, ready?
No.
How long has this place been open for? No.
You're gonna have to fact check everything that you asked me. Like 3 years, 2 or 3 years.
And it looks like it's been here for 50.
Yeah.
How do you go about designing a place that sort of feels like it's been there for ages?
I mean, I guess it's a balance, isn't it, between sort of something becoming really contrived and looking like you're trying to make a dive bar and having a dive bar, and it's not off the shelf, is it? So
Shabby chic. You don't want that, do you?
no. I mean, it needs time. A dive bar needs time, doesn't it? Like 3 years, like you say, it probably looks like 33 years. And it's not dirty. It's not about being dirty. It's about being lived in, isn't it? And not a kind of a clean edge anywhere or a clean thing. I mean, the seats might be a bit worse for wear, but I don't know. I think it comes from.
Because I remember when it first opened, and it felt like it was old then. I mean, it was clearly. Because you put a lot of work into like sticking shit everywhere.
Yeah,
right?
it takes time to make it look like this. You've got to like put things on and rip them off, and then add to it, and then remove it, and then add to it. I mean, there's a rule that nothing gets
taken down
ever. Like, it's Halloween. Well, there's fucking Halloween stuff up. It's Christmas, and there's a hot dog there's a hot dog suit up there or something. It's like it has to be added to and added to and added to. But you kind of want to do that for day one.
Yeah.
So it is pretty difficult, and you kind of got to. You need everyone to write all of this crap on the walls. You need everyone to do all this, and you only do that by being comfortable in the bar. And you can start with some things. You kind of give them a kind of blank canvas, which isn't very blank.
Yeah.
But you give them the opportunity.
Encourage it.
Yeah, like a toilet that's pristine and lovely. You go to Hawksmoor, the toilets are really nice. You're gonna be a dick if you write something about somebody's mum in there, aren't you? It's horrible. But you start with some graffiti in the toilets, and people add to it and add to it and add to it, and some of the best graffiti I've ever seen in those toilets.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before we started. I mean, some of it's probably not suitable for really any podcast, but and perhaps the cameras are picking up some of them as well. But maybe you need to come here and experience it for yourself. But there are some weird people that come in this bar. So we're in Junior Jackson's, I should say, and we'll talk about the rest of your bars in a minute. But there are some weird people coming in here, that is for sure. And I was asking before we started. I wasn't sort of asking you, I was sort of saying it, it's the staff really, isn't it? You need a team of people that sort of foster that sort of slightly naughty, slightly oddball, slightly there are no rules behaviour.
Yeah, and they need to be tight, and they need to get on, and they need to be funny, They need to be able to do what the hell they want as well, Yeah. I think a dive bar isn't a bar that is owned by the owner. A dive bar's a bar that's kind of owned by the staff and the guests, and it becomes theirs. It becomes theirs really quick. We were talking about it last night. What makes a dive bar? I still don't 100% know. It should be cash only. It should have at least one jukebox. Well, it's card only in here, and there's no jukebox, but it's most definitely a dive bar, isn't it?
Yeah, that's also I think like you said, it's owned by the people and owned by the staff. It's a bit, in a way, like a pub in that sense. Like, I know the comparison isn't perfect by any stretch, but we have pubs in the UK. A dive bar is much more an American thing, though we do have them over here. And in a sense, it sort of operates the same way. It's sort of like the judgment isn't there when you come in. It's very sort of egalitarian. Yeah. It's like, if you're quirky and weird, that's okay. It's somewhere to meet people in your community kind of thing. I suppose with pubs, they're more sort of like physical community focused, whereas dive bars are a bit more kind of cultural community focused.
Yeah. I think we've been to enough dive bars, together and with various friends, and I think if you go into them, I'm on about ones in the States. If you go to them, there can be a lawyer sat next to a prostitute, sat next to somebody who's probably homeless, sat next to probably a drug dealer, sat next to a few bartenders, and it almost sounds like a joke, the start of a joke or something, but it's not. They all get on, they all feel welcome, and they don't feel there isn't any judgment, like you say. The judgment side of anything kind of is left at the door.
Yeah, I enjoy Charlie Brothers Free, which is one of our favorite dive bars, of course, in New Orleans. And he occasionally puts up like Facebook posts to some of his regulars.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's like a sort of little documentary of the people that visit, and he gives a kind of usually probably made up backstory about these people. But it's so interesting to sort of get a little insight into the kind of people that turn up to these places. And it's such a mixture.
And it's like, why would you go anywhere else? We go to New Orleans and have done quite a bit. And, I can't wait to get to Brothers 3. And, it's over the years it's changed. It used to be you could probably spend an hour in there, maybe 2 at tops, but it absolutely stunk. It was disgusting. It was like, it smelt worse than an ashtray. Like, because you could smoke in there. It's horrid. It was just, and it's a low ceiling, horrible place. But, I think that's one of the greatest finds. And I think, I've introduced that bar to quite a lot of people. And the first time I went in there, and you go in, it is a full on shithole.
Yeah,
it really is. But in a beautiful way. I say that with the greatest respect. And I went in, and this guy's behind the bar, Charlie's behind the bar, and I've not met him, but all of a sudden I was like, this place is kind of cool. And there was 6 cash registers on the back bar, and I was like, mate, why is there 6 cash registers on the back bar? And he looked at them, and he looked at me, and he looked at them again. He's like, you see room for 7? And I was like, it's things like that, and it's like, right, I'm home.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
It is. The first time I went in there was with you and Jake and a few others, and we'd been doing a dive bar tour, as we often do, or always do.
Yeah.
And it was my first visit to Brothers 3, and when we walked in there, I turned to Jake and I said, this isn't a dive bar, it's an actual shithole.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you learn to love it, and it's the quirks and the cash register. I think the only thing that smells worse than the bar is the toilets. It's possibly the worst smelling place on the planet.
It's unbelievable. But listen, if you go there enough and you become a regular like myself, you get to use a ladies' toilet, which smell a tiny bit better. Like they are, like you will be sick in them if you're in there long enough.
The men's is like, it's actually like hitting a wall of fume. You can feel it, not just smell it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that's even possible.
I don't, and I don't want to, and yeah, but I can't wait to get back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk a bit about your boss. We're in Junior Jackson's.
Yeah.
I think it would be good actually to sort of start from the start and get a full sort of bio of your operations. I think most people probably think you've been bartending your entire life.
Yeah.
That's not true though, is it?
No. I didn't pour a beer until I was 30. So yeah, I had a whole other life, I think. So yeah, I was a mechanic, and I worked for BMW for some time. And I left, I went traveling, I came back and I was like, you know what? I don't want to do anything like that anymore. And I like drinking beer. So yeah, I got a bar job. But 30 is a kind of a bit of a late start, yeah. I mean, I've still been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because I turned 50 this year, which is horrible. But yeah, it kind of started late, but it started late, and because I was older, because I was, well-traveled, because you'd done quite a lot of different things, it was kind of a lot easier, I think that things kind of get missed a bit these days, but bartending isn't just about making an amazing cocktail. That's a very small part of being a bartender, and to a certain extent, it's about making people feel welcome, having a laugh with people, taking the piss out of people, doing all these different things, knowing what's what, and I soon sort of went from a bartender to running a bar to then owning a bar in quite a sort of very short space of time. So. Yeah, and that first bar was Liars Club, after working at Keko for some time.
So when did Liars open?
2011, I think. And that sort of, from how good Keko was, Keko's, like, for people who don't know, it's a tiny, tiny little tiki bar where Dogtown is now, which is weirdly 4 times bigger than Keko in the same building.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's so weird. There was 12 ceilings in the place. What were removed. But yeah, Keko, we won best overall bar at the Class Awards. Was that like 2009, I think?
Yeah, I think it was 2010, because my bar, Pearl, was up for it, and that was the year we opened, and you beat all the London bars and everything. Yeah.
I remember being quite shocked myself.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, that puts you in really good sort of position to do different things. So, you know, people came knocking and, you know, yeah, it felt like the natural progression to open my own place. And I had sort of full control of what I wanted to do. And we took over a little bar called Purple Pussycat, which was, you know, an interesting place. And yeah, we put a tiki bar in there, and it hit the ground running, and it was busy from, you know, day one. And that was it. I was sort of like, wow, well, I quite like opening bars. Let's open another one. So yeah, we opened Cane and Grain. And then very soon after that, I mean, Cane and Grain was kind of like 3 bars as well. It was, you know, had a tiki bar on the top, had a little sort of private sort of speakeasy bar on the first floor, and then the tap room. And that, again, went really well. So it's like, well, let's open somewhere else. And then we got offered a pub. So we opened this pub. And when I say we, by the way, this was Job and Ross, my old business partners, because I don't have these places anymore. And, you know, I think that was it. I mean, I probably should have stopped there. You know, 3 is the perfect amount, because you can kind of, you know what's happening in all 3 at any given time.
Yeah. It's like if you've got 3 kids, you can probably just about stay on top of 3. But if you have 18 kids.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with one of those, but
yeah.
18. I mean, you know, I think at the height, I had like 22 bars. And that's too much. You know, I know people do it, but when they're all different, when they're all, you know, not necessarily in the same city, you know, you have to let something go.
Yeah.
And that's where things change. That's where, you know, money starts to be this worry, because, you know, I did all of this to have fun. I did all this to, you know, not have a real job, because I'd already had my real job, and that was tedious. So yeah, you know, you open a place and let's open it, and if it does well, great. If it doesn't, you know, we've opened something that we like and we love, and it's cool. And then you've got loads of them, and you've got loads of staff, and you've got loads of everything. It's like, oh shit, now I've got all of this worries. I've got to pay all of this stuff to, who knew, like all of these things that, you know, I mean, we don't go to opening a bar school, do we? You know, it's, you learn as you go as well with these things, which is also an expensive way of doing it.
Well, of course, you learn the most from the failures as well.
Yeah.
So it is expensive. We'll get back to the show shortly, but first I wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor, Fever Tree. Fever Tree have been my mixer of choice for more than a decade now, going right back to when I used them as our mixer at 15 in Cornwall in 2005. It's a very long time ago. This is a brand, of course, that made its name with tonic water. But to be honest with you, the thing that's going to be most excited at the moment is their range of ginger mixers. They have ginger beer, ginger ale, and then this product here, which is possibly my favorite in the entire range. Fever Tree Spiced Orange Ginger Ale. The product starts out just like their normal ginger ale, flavored with 3 unique gingers that harmoniously come together for a nice citric, zesty, but also subtly spicy ginger effect. Then 2 more ingredients are added: cinnamon for a nice baking spice hum, and then fresh clementine, which really extends that citric flavor and adds weight and body to this ginger ale. I would happily drink this stuff on its own, but of course it's a mixer, and it's best served with a nice whiskey, extending out into a highball and adding some real length and depth to it. Don't be fooled by the name. It's spiced orange. It might sound like it's a wintry ingredient, but actually it works brilliantly in summer highballs. And since we're approaching that period now's the time to crack it out. Let's talk about Junkyard then, and Bunny Jackson's Bigger Boat, as the group is known.
Yeah.
So how did that all start?
So that started, it happened kind of organically. So we had this thing called Friday Food Fight in the Great Northern, and it was like 13 food traders every Friday. No food was thrown. It wasn't an actual food fight. But we had DJs on it. It was all this and it was kind of cool. It was really good. It was busy. We had, you know, Jazzy Jeff DJ'd and different things like this. It was kind of cool. But all of a sudden, like, Glastonbury comes around and no food trader wants to do anything. You know, it's festival season, so they all leave. And we're like, what the hell do we do? And we'd been to a place in on the way to Key West called Boondocks, this just weird crazy golf place outdoors, really cool. And, you know, I think we'd been there a few months before, and we were like, well, let's just open a weird little golf thing. Let's do a crazy golf thing, see what happens. And nobody at the time was actually doing this crazy golf and, you know, getting drunk and cocktails and this and the other, you know, it's one or the other. And it kind of, this experiential thing started from Junkyard.
Was anyone else doing sort of sport drinking in the UK? Obviously, besides like darts in pubs.
I mean, the classic sport drinking, which is darts.
Yeah.
I got some beer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, at the time, I don't know if they were. I wasn't
weren't
aware of them.
Yeah.
So all of this, you know, we kind of built these courses ourselves. Me, Bart, and Chris. Sorry, mate. Yeah. We built these courses. You know, it was. I mean, it was. I don't think it was very health and safety orientated. But we did it. We built these things. It's like, you know, we built 9 holes in a week, and we put the tickets up for sale, and they sold out in like 20 minutes or something, and we were like, oh shit, what we got here. So we did, you know, a few months, and we, you know, constantly fixed all the things that broke because we built this thing. And then we were like, okay, well, you know, let's get serious with this. Let's put another 9 holes in. Let's get some actual builders into these things. Get rid of the treadmills that people used to jump on and then go flying. I was like, that was a bit dangerous. So we did all of that, and I guess that was the start of this Junkyard thing. But that was just, you know, a bit of a thing to tide us over with when Beat Street, which was this other thing, which was part of Friday Food Fight. It's all very confused. I'm almost confused myself about all these things because it was all kind of happening everywhere. And, you know, this is whilst running all these other bars. So I think we opened Junkyard and we closed Beat Street. We kind of had this street after Friday Food Fight because we needed to put this food trader somewhere else. That didn't really work, but Junkyard smashed it. But in doing that, we opened a Bunny Jackson's, which was like the first dive bar that we opened, and that smashed it. That was really cool. So yeah, so we opened Bunny Jackson's at the Great Northern. This kind of went well. We had like live music. We had all these different things that Bunny's has now. And then we lost the site, or we got rid of the site, and we moved it to another site. And that is where it is now. It kind of is our most sort of popular site. It's kind of the one that props all the others up because, again, you know, we're not really about making money. We're about making fun, I guess. You know,
making memories.
Yeah, making memories. That's a t-shirt. But yeah, I think that's the one that kind of props all the others up. You know, and Junkyard, we started from 1, and now we're at 7. You know, we've got them in all the major cities.
And like, it's like hard to exaggerate how successful that's been, right?
Yeah,
it's massive now,
I mean,
right?
Without Junkyard, we wouldn't have the ability to open these other bars that probably on paper a great idea. But you know, money shouldn't stop you opening bars, and I think money is a thing that
stops a lot of people.
Yeah,
and stops a lot of people from doing it properly as well.
Yeah.
But I said this to Bart, your business partner, before, and I think I probably said it to you too. I think Junkyard was sort of the golden goose because it gave you the cash flow to be able to experiment with other concepts. And as it happens, pretty much all of them have gone really, really well. Not all of them, but most of them.
I mean, there's always a few out there that don't go well. But, you know, they're, again, lessons. The expensive lessons don't matter so much if you've got a thing like Junkyard that kind of props them up. And it has done for ages, and it still does. You know, it's there's a little bit, you know, at the end of the sort of the Liars group stuff, which, you know, is an end of a bit of a chapter for me. You know, not having Liars Club, Crazy Pedros,
Pedros in that as well.
Yeah, and you know, they're great sites, and you know, I wish them all the best for the future, all of this stuff. But it's a weird one when, you know, they kind of came out of your head and then you don't have them anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that towards the end came, you know, money was always an issue. Money was always this thing a bit with different, you know, with all of those venues. And it's hard not to talk about money when you run all of these bars. And, you know, I never really wanted it to be about money. I wanted it to be about the fun and the, you know, if it's really good and people come through the doors and love it, then the money will obviously follow. But, you shouldn't be really talking about money first. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of design and concept stuff that you are mostly in charge of, or pretty much entirely in charge of for all these businesses, it really shows that there's a sort of passion and love that goes into the venues, all the way through, from like the interior design, the music, the drinks, the food, even like the language that's used on the menus and in the sort of communications. I mean, I remember at Crazy Pedros when you did the A boards out the front with all the bad reviews on it,
yeah,
and things like that, which is like, it's just fucking interesting, disruptive kind of stuff.
and I think that's it as well. And doing something a bit different is always hard to be like the first one sometimes, isn't it? Or, you know, it's getting harder and harder. Cheers.
You're a long way away, so I'll just cheers myself.
Putting those A boards outside, and you know, you shouldn't put a shit review of your bar outside your bar, and like, you know, blah 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 said all of these things 1 out of 5.
Average pizza, shitty staff, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I can't quite remember what it was, but you know, it was like, oh my god, this is the best review I've ever heard, and you know, it was all derogatory in their eyes, but I'm like, you've got it in one. This is what we're about. This is perfect, you know, and it is. You know, I think somebody put like a review the other day. I mean, I try not to read reviews. Every so often you kind of get into them and you're like, oh, I still want to do it. But I think there was one for Bunny Jackson's, and some woman was like, I've been to. She was there with her mate. We came from, I don't know, such and such a place to come here, and there's graffiti everywhere. There's even anti-Nazi graffiti in the toilets, and I was like, what would you expect? Like, what would you want, pro-Nazi? Like, it was really weird. Like, what an odd thing to kind of moan about.
I mean, probably a Nazi then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it is.
You could call her a graffiti Nazi, in fact.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think doing something a bit out there is what we all want to do. You know, people are creative with drinks. People are creative with architecture. People are creative with all these different things, and you know, all we've got is this little space, you know, from the doors to a bit of outside sometimes, and you want it to be different. You want to do something the first time. You want to do something that nobody else has done, and you know, that is.
I think there's also the like under-promising, over-delivering part to it as well.
Yeah.
When it's sort of the place doesn't feel like it's gonna excel, and obviously a negative review on an A board out the front, it sort of challenges people like, oh, well, surely it's better than that. I've got to find out, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And like, it shows a confidence as well to be able to put your bad reviews on display.
Yeah, I mean,
because if you were shit,
dreadful.
if you were shit, it wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah, there's just loads of A-boards, all dreadful. Yeah, you know, I mean, you look in here like that. You know, we serve wine out of like Sports Direct mugs, and you know that's not from me. That's from the staff, and you know, it's people going with something cool, and it's like, you know, you're not going to second guess your staff when everything goes so well and it's really cool, you know.
Yeah. But it's finding the staff that can kind of take the baton of the original concept, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you want
to be at the start, but then you pass it. And
the catalyst, and like this is so that there's a clear kind of objective or concept to what this is about, and it's clear to everyone. And like, you know, the bar like this, it's clear the staff have sort of picked up that baton and run with it probably farther than you would expect or maybe even like. But like, if you've got a bar where, let's say it's more like, it's sort of cleaner, more stylish, like kind of, you know, glossy surfaces and style bar kind of thing. Similarly, you have to find staff that understand what that bar represents and who the clientele are. And if they're kind of
these would be terrible in like a hotel bar.
Yeah. It wouldn't work like Schofield's. If you stuck them in there, that'd be quite an interesting takeover, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, let's do it. Come on, guys. Let's make it happen. Johnson Tequila.
Yeah.
You got some?
I've got some, actually. Cheers.
So, in terms of the concepts themselves, where do you get the inspiration? Like, I mean, I know obviously you're really into art, so I guess there's some of that, and you like visiting bars, but are there any particular places where you can sort of join the dots between, oh yeah, that inspired this, and so on?
I mean, I think sometimes it just goes kind of into you, doesn't it? You know, you look at enough art, you look at enough bars and visit enough bars and go to enough places, it kind of gets in your blood, in your veins. And I don't know whether there's a specific place. I remember going to like El Batay in
Puerto Rico.
yeah, and my God, that place is like, I like things that are kind of, you know, really sort of peeling off the walls. Like it looks like it's about to fall down knackered. And that has, like, I think they're now on, like the walls are kind of being painted with white because I think the walls were white and then everyone wrote on them with black and now they were writing over the black.
It's like someone who's been tattooed so much.
Yeah,
so,
but it's from like the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, that place is amazing.
It's really cool, isn't it? Yeah.
But it is that, you know, what's this going to look like in, you know, in 40 years' time, if that's what that one looks like, you know, it's going to be.
But yeah, I mean, I think so. Yeah, with influence, it's hard to sort of. Sometimes you pick it from all over the place, don't you? You can find like, oh well, I like what they've done with like chicken wings, and I like what that place has done with the freaking posters on the walls or whatever.
Yeah.
You never entirely sure possibly where all these different influences come from, but they do coalesce, and then you sort of splurge it out.
I think sometimes it's kind of, it goes in and then it takes a bit of time to come out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I think the wings thing, you know, we had bunnies for a while and we were doing like, I think we were just like giving people free hot dogs for a bit. Like we didn't really know what to do with the food and we had different bits and bobs. It wasn't really working. And me and Bart went to this place in just outside of Miami, a real weird place, like next to a jail. And they did 10-cent wings with Rob Burr, who runs Rum Renaissance, whatever. And the 10-cent wings, and we were like, fuck, let's get like 20 wings. And then we're like, let's get 20 more wings. And I think we had like 100 wings or something like that easily, you know, in a quite quick sort of time. And that was, you know, probably a year before we decided to do like 10p wings in bunnies. But overnight, obviously, you know, it's like, how can these guys do 10p wings? Well, you know, we lost money on every wing we sold, but it brought loads of people in, and you know, you make the money from you know, selling your beer and different things like this. But yeah, I don't know, you know, I think sometimes it takes a bit longer than I want to sort of come out of me. You know, it's like I don't think we're very good at doing nice places.
Well, Wolf of the Door, which is a nice place.
It is.
Craft beer and also discount food, like £1 bags, £1 tacos, or a shade more than £1. But when you first opened it, Wilderness, it was more of a restaurant concept. But that was kind of the problem, I think, right?
I mean, it was amazing.
It was really incredible food and drinks as well.
Yeah. That was spectacular, and we were like, "Oh my god, is this what it's like having like a high-end sort of restaurant?" Like, oh, so we lose even more money. Like, it was just impossible. Like, we didn't know how to do. We aren't very good operators with high-end food things. Yeah, we're definitely not.
Yeah, high volume.
Yeah, and you know, I want people to come through the doors and have a good time, and you know, so do people in high-end restaurants. But it's a different good time, I guess, they're having in these bars.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I miss that place. Those lamb skewers were absolutely
It was amazing. And because I remember you were briefly vegan around the time it opened as well for like 3 weeks. And there was a vegan menu as well. And I think me, you and Craig Harper, we had dinner there and we ordered basically everything. And the vegan food was insanely good.
Yeah.
And then the wine, of course, was great.
That mushroom dish was amazing.
Yeah. So on the food side of things, because I actually think sort of quietly, like that's kind of a big part of what you do because it's used like a marketing tool, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the £1 bags or is it still 10p wings or has that changed now?
No, I mean, that's blame Brexit, but I think they start at 25p now.
Yeah. Probably the world's running out of chickens because you're getting through so many.
I think there's quite a few of them.
What's the counter on at the moment?
The counter is on, I think it's nearing 7 million.
So that's 3.5 million chickens.
Yeah.
But
well, actually, no. You have to divide it by 4 because it's.
Oh, you do 2 parts of the wing, don't you? Yeah. Oh, it's not that many then.
I don't feel so bad. I can sleep at night.
No, it's all right. Yeah, like you said, sort of lost leader or break-even food offering is really interesting because you can use it like you might use a marketing budget.
Yeah.
So instead of paying a PR company or paying for advertising or whatever else bars do in order to get noticed, you just assign that budget to food, right?
Yeah.
And accept that you're not going to make a profit off it, but you are off the drinks.
Yeah. And you know, you kind of, you've got that person for quite a bit of time if they're ordering food as well, haven't you? So, you know, they're in there, that food that goes in front of them, we make a tiny bit of money, you know, sometimes, but we make the normal amount of money on drinks. But it's popular because it's cheap as hell, you know, and it's not bad and cheap. It's really good and cheap. And you know, I think Bunny's wings are the best wings in Manchester by a long way, if not, you know, further afield. And they shouldn't be that cheap, you know.
Yeah.
But it works, you know. It drags the people in and makes them stay. And you know, what do you want to have with chicken wings? Oh well, I want to have a beer and a whiskey, you know. Fact.
I'd rather whiskey right now.
Let's do it.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
What are we drinking?
Mixers.
Michter's bourbon.
Delicious.
What do you like? You don't like Scotch, do you?
No.
It all tastes like bells, right?
Yeah.
That's what you normally say, yeah.
It does.
It's funny how I go from one week I'm interviewing Charles McLean, like god of whiskey, and the next week I'm interviewing one of my best mates who says that all Scotch tastes like bells.
I mean, you know, it's strange. I can't get over it. Again, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I kind of started really, really being into rum, and you know, rum to me, you know, it's got a bit. It's very different than when I first got into it. You know, I knew everything about it, and it was fun. And now I kind of know little about it, and it's far from fun. It seems
It's got quite politically charged, doesn't it?
yeah, which is a shame, man, because you know it should be the most fun spirit. You know, it's not anymore. It's tequila by a long way.
Yeah, I think the thing with rum is, and when I was talking to Ian Burrell, he kind of sort of spelt this out for me. You've got 3, I would actually say possibly 4 types of consumer, and he breaks it down to the 90%, the 9%, the 1%, and I would also add a 0.1% on that as well.
Yeah.
So the 90% are people who probably are drinking rum, but they don't even really know anything about it. They might even be drinking spiced rum and calling it rum. They really know nothing about it. They're perhaps vaguely aware that it's made from sugar, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Sugar cane, of course. And then you've got the 9%. Those are people who have a little bit more knowledge about rum. They're maybe kind of trading up a little bit to something like Mount Gay, and you know, have a vague understanding that there's, you know, lots of different producers, lots of different islands, and maybe even understanding that different styles come from different islands or regions or whatever as well. Then you've got the 1%, which Ian sort of counts as like the geeks, but I actually think the 1% are probably people who are drinking things like Zacapa and like spending a bit more money on rum, not going sort of full kind of research mode, like, you know, reading all the rum reviews and that kind of thing, in order to get down to the sort of true nitty gritty, but they're happy to spend money and they're happy to explore and experiment with rum. And then the 0.1%, which is the kind of people that are hanging around on internet forums and getting involved in the politics that's going on. And so the point of saying all this is, like, it has got politicized, and we know the people on sort of every side of the political argument, but actually that's just because we're exposed to it and most people are not.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, we see this a lot more, don't we? But I've always thought that alcohol is there, you know, to kind of drink. And, you know, you can talk about it, you can get really into it, but, you know, don't let the talking about it and the going over and over something, or, you know, the arguments and the disagreements and statements on bottles and all these different things. It's like, you know, when does that stop? That just becoming all of a sudden just, I'm not even bothered about it anymore. Like, you've almost ruined it. And it's getting that way a bit, I think, or got that way.
Yeah, and like to sort of spell it out for anyone that's not aware, and sorry for actually, if you aren't aware, bringing you into this sort of politicized debate around rum, is most of it is centered around geographical indications, specifically Jamaica and Barbados. And we have a situation where you've got spirits producers on these islands that are making rum in their particular way, and it's the resulting spirit, because of the way they make it, stylized with specific kind of characteristics that make them Barbadian or Bajan and Jamaican. But there's also people who are taking that rum, taking it away from Jamaica or from Barbados, perhaps maturing it elsewhere, perhaps adding a little bit of sugar to it. And the real debate is about, like, can that be called Jamaican rum? Can it be called Barbados rum? And there's going to be a lot of like legal machinations taking place over the next few years that are really going to set down what the rules are and that, and how you can label.
It'd be lovely just for somebody to just decide it and then move.
And then we can move on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, if you're a producer on one of these islands, it's in your best interest as a business operator to protect the style
Absolutely.
of product that you're making there, because otherwise it just gets open for abuse. And then if someone makes, if you and I bought a Barbados rum, brought it over here, fucked about with it by adding a load of flavors to it, and then bottled it as, you know, authentic Barbados rum, that gives people the wrong impression on what Barbados rum is. And then you have that sort of filters down to all Barbados rum, you know?
It seems like a meeting that should last an hour,
Yes.
and then go past it and then carry on drinking it and having some fun, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah.
And it's like the same with added sugar. It's like, you know, realistically, you know, it's made from sugar and a you know, not from sugar, but
Yeah.
you know, it's not far away. You know, sugar is a big part of rum production,
Yes.
and to add sugar, I've got no problem with anybody who adds sugar to any rum.
Yeah, I don't either. I think.
And you know what? Why not say you have? It tastes bloody delicious.
But what about transparency? Do you think they should be made to like state on the bottle that this has got sugar added to it?
I mean, I think they should. Yeah, I think they should. Debate over.
There you go. Move on.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think if you go back,
It's a lot harder to make rum and not add sugar to it and it be absolutely delicious. And the people who do make delicious rum with no added sugar are better at making rum than other people.
Yes.
But that doesn't stop the person who's not quite as good having an amazing rum with some added sugar in it. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, but I think the problem. See, we're getting involved in this debate now. I
Yeah.
think the problem is that from the producer's perspective, who is making the authentic rum, and let's use Foursquare as probably the most famous and notable example, and probably one of the best rum distillers or distilleries in the world. If you are marketing your product against other products that have added sugar to them, and people are going, oh, well, this one tastes that little bit sweeter and smoother, I think I like it more. And it's like, well, yeah, but they used a cheat code.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're going to want people to know about that because it's an unfair comparison.
Yeah.
I get you, like, I mean, you're adding sugar to a product that's already made from sugar.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem anything particularly wrong with that. But I do think it would be better if there was a mandatory statement of,
I don't understand why nobody would agree with that, because that is exactly what it should be. Yeah. It's
well,
like,
I think there are a few producers that would disagree because they feel that it would be it would denigrate their product. It would.
I mean, but that's a bit that I think they've got wrong. Like, would that stop you?
I don't think
drinking
so.
something that's delicious.
No, I don't think so. I think if you like.
I mean, my God, we want actual sugar added to the flipping soft drinks.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
No. I think you're probably right. I think there's very few consumers who are drinking sweetened rums who, if they found out there's sugar added, would go, oh well, I'm not touching that.
What, that
again.
delicious sweet stuff? It's got sugar in it.
Not having that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the bit where it all falls down, because it just makes common sense to put this thing on the bottle. It makes common sense to do this, move past it and get back into being fun again, because it is so boring. And I think everyone thinks that as well, yeah?
So yeah, tequila and mezcal. Let's talk about that, because you were over in Mexico last year for a bit, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it on an Ocho trip?
It was with Stu and Jake actually as well, and some others, of course. Yeah, that was fun. That was a long 10 days. I thought I might die. But man, that, you know, it's funny because I've got a little tequila bar that we're not discussed, called Southside.
Yes.
In Withington, South Manchester. Like, Withington's a little village, you know, sort of 15 minutes out of Manchester. And that little tequila bar, Southside, we buy the most Ocho tequila in the UK. Like, no other bar buys more than us, which is crazy because it's a tiny little place in Withington. But, you know, all of the guys, you know, now have been over there because, you know, we love this product so much. It's so different. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
You know, compared to this rum thing. And I know there are debates about certain things.
There are indeed.
Of course,
yeah.
And, you know, let's not get into them at all.
They've got the same debate going on, really, of additives, you know.
Exactly.
And,
yeah. But somehow, I don't know, it doesn't seem as bad. Yeah, it's... yeah, man, do you know what? I didn't think I'd like anything more than rum, and rum was my life for a long time. And it's tequila and bourbon now that I think are, you know, that they're accessible to everyone. You know, I know a lot of people still have hang-ups about tequila from, you know, back in the day. They've gone. You know, that stuff's like, it's like cream.
It's good.
It's amazing.
Really good. And the new bottle as well now.
beautiful.
That's the first time I've seen it in the wild, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen.
It looked cool in that size as well.
I saw an early version of it, but it's not been out long, has it? Yeah, very nice. Yeah, and we were talking about mezcal distilleries because you visited a few of those as well, I think, and you were saying how. Because Crazy Pedros had a pretty significant mezcal offering as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it has.
I think back when we started that probably had one of, if not the biggest collection of mezcals, and we did a lot with Del Maguey.
Yeah.
We did a lot with different producers, but yeah, that was it's an interesting having a big back bar full of mezcal and at the time, not that many people into it. It was a bit of a push.
Yeah.
They certainly bought more tequila than mezcal. And that's probably still the case.
Yeah. I remember you saying to me that you had this sort of impression that mezcal was just quite expensive, like it cost too much. You're like, why is this so expensive, this stuff? And then,
you buy it and you're like, I want to open a mezcal bar. Right, let's get the cheapest one. Oh, it's £45 a bottle. What the hell? And yeah, that first trip with Del Maguey, we went over there and, I was like, we were on a coach for like 4 hours, going to the little sort of distillery or palenque or whatever you want to call it. But we're on this coach for like 4 hours, felt longer. And then I think we got off that and we got into like a Jeep or a couple of Jeeps because, the roads were getting worse. And we were like an hour on that. And then I think we walked for like half an hour to this place. And it's like... And we got there, and I was like, "Fucking hell!" Like,
sounds like an Indiana Jones movie.
£45 is an absolute bargain. How do they even get this liquid from here that's taken so long for me to get to my back bar? I was buying it, and I didn't even know that story. I didn't even know that. So there's a lot of people who don't understand it, and it's a very I've seen less wasteful. Everything's it's quite a wasteful way of making.
Yeah, it's not very efficient. Which is partly why it tastes so good, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at sort of, the way that they're crushing it, the agaves, and
you'd think they'd be more careful. It's taken so long. Yeah.
Yeah. The like this sort of like Tahona mule pool thing, which is crushing the agaves, and the efficiency of extracting sugar out of that the juice out of that is not great. Of course, a lot of the time they're actually fermenting the actual fiber of the agave too. Yeah. But you're never fully extracting all the sugar out of that like you would if you mill it, like most tequila distilleries do.
But then, yeah, like you say, I don't think it would be the same, would it?
It wouldn't be the same. And then you look at the distillation process, it's usually tiny stills.
Well, look, you've been away. You've just written a book all about agave spirits. How many did you go to when you were there?
38.
Wow.
Proper tours, and then sort of not put our head in the door for a few more as well.
Yeah. Well, that's like almost like volume 1 or something, surely, because you can't even touch. How long would it take you to go around all of them?
Well, I mean, I did actually write. No, I don't think you could. I did write this in the book. So we did. I think there's tequila distilleries around 100, maybe a bit more. We did 20. There's something like. I'm probably getting the numbers wrong here. Buy the book if you want to get the correct numbers. Something like 2,500 tequila brands, though. So all made out of like 100, 150 distilleries, or noms as they're called. With mezcal, the numbers really unclear.
I bet there's no way of actually.
No, I mean there's obviously a lot of illicit distilling going on as well, and there's constantly distilleries that are turning legal because they're finding a bottler like Del Maguey or Vago or whoever who's like, yeah, this is really cool juice, but we're going to have to register you. But it's thousands and thousands of distilleries, and most of them in Oaxaca, but there's a lot spread around other states like Durango, Michoacan, Puebla.
It's funny as well, isn't it? Because there's a chat about that, and there's a bit of a debate about that, and to the most part, you kind of make mezcal for your family, for yourself and your family and your extended family, and then somebody tries and goes, oh my god, this is amazing, I want to, let's do something together. I'm going to build you a big warehouse. It kind of changes their lives, and I don't know whether sometimes that's not necessarily for good.
Yeah, that's so. There's a lot of debates going on in tequila and mezcal, and I think in mezcal in particular. Well, in fact, this isn't really going on in tequila because tequila, it's already happened. But yeah, this sort of maintenance of authenticity and being respectful of the cultures that are producing it. And I think the best bottlers are doing exactly that. They're like, look, we're going to bottle your product and sell it. We're going to pay you a good price for it, but we don't really want you to change anything. We're not going to, like, you know, buy you a nice car.
When you go in on day one with the bulldozer.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're gonna need to change all of this to like that would be a horrible way of operating. So, and I think the kind of people that are drinking these spirits, the kind of people that are buying, you know, reasonably expensive bottles of independently bottled mezcal, are some of the most conscientious, aware drinkers on the planet. Because the reason they got into it in the first place is they're like, I want this authentic, like, untouched, not kind of like homogenized, not a corporatified product. And if you start fucking with the people that are making it, then I'm not going to buy it off you. And so when you go on the websites of these bottlers, there's a whole sort of, you know, statement about sustainability, and, you know, a lot of them are giving money to charities that are supporting indigenous, you know, communities and all that sort of thing. So I think they're going about it for the most part the right way.
Yeah.
But there is a danger, and like you see certain towns in Oaxaca that have been completely transformed. I mean, they've always had a lot of distilleries, but now it's like tours and all that kind of thing.
Well, you know, again, you know, going back to a bit what I was saying before, but, you know, they were doing all this. It was nothing to do with money. It was to do with, you know, wanting to do it, and it's actually, you know, just having it there for yourself and your family. To change from being about that to then being about, you know, volume commitments and having to do this, you know, it's so far removed.
It doesn't work. Yeah. So you mentioned about it not being about money, and you mentioned that in your bars as well. Do you think that that's kind of like the secret sauce of a good business, is if you get into it, or at least some person within the business gets into it almost blind to like whether this is going to be a financial success? It's just, I've got to do this, I want to do this, this is my thing.
Well, it's only a secret source success thing if it works. Yeah. But I don't know. I guess there's different ways of looking at it, isn't there? Like, do you go into all of this to make money, or do you go into all of this to have the lifestyle and do the things that you'd like to do? And, you know, it should be the latter, of course. And if you can do that and some money comes along from that, then great. But I mean, but it shouldn't. It's difficult, isn't it? It's like there's a lot of people that we know, you know, who open bars and it doesn't work, and it's horrible, isn't it? Or you know, 2 work, and the third one bombs, and they lose all of them. You know, and it's horrible. So money's that thing that you need to keep chucking into it for it to work. You know, that's the fuel to keep it going. And you know, the only way you get money as a bar owner is by people coming through your doors and buying your products, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, I think maybe that's why the dive bar thing works for me, because you have your regular people who come in, and you have that sort of, that person who walks through the door, you know who they are. You know, it's a bit like shouting the name Norm in Cheers. You know, it's like, he's not going to drink anywhere else, is he? Like, so you've got those people who come in and they deserve this place to be a bit like a home from a home as well, don't they, I suppose? So
that's why I drew the analogy with a pub. I do think there's some similarities there. I think you would agree that every bar you've opened, you've designed it almost with yourself as the kind of target market.
Yeah, I think so. I guess, you know, as I got a bit older, we wanted the things to look a bit nicer, and then we were like, let's just hang out in dive bars. But yeah, I think, I think you've got to do it for the guests, and you've got to do it for yourself. In kind of, maybe I do always do it for myself a little bit more, you know. But I've got to love it for the other people to love it. You know?
I think it's easier to design a bar when you know that you're gonna want to drink there or eat there.
Yeah.
Than if you're like, right, I've got this target market. I've nothing in relation to these people. I can't really that's not my people, but I'm going to design a product that appeals to them. It's harder, right? Because you don't necessarily have the insight that those people.
It is, but then you have these wonderful sort of juxtaposition places, like that little burger place in New York in the hotel, and it's like a proper divey little burger joint in a posh glass and steel looking wonderful
Yeah.
5-star hotel. And, you know, that there's something weird about that. You know, I think if you have a dive bar in somewhere that's really high end, I mean, I'm open for a...
Do you think you should put like a Michelin star restaurant in the corner of one of your dive bars? Like, upstairs in Bunny Jackson's is a Michelin star restaurant.
And everything's at 1 pence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be...
do you know what? I love that, you know, that's again something that people, going back to like doing something that nobody's done, you know, like I'd love to do that, you know, a dive bar in a Michelin star restaurant or a Michelin star restaurant and a dive bar, something like that. Nobody's done it. I'd go there.
Dive bar in a Michelin star restaurant would be cool.
Yeah.
Imagine you finish your delicious meal and you're like, right, now let's start drinking hard.
Yeah. Well, I said that at the start of the meal, to be fair.
We already started drinking hard. 2 wine packages each.
Speaking of which.
Yeah, actually, do you want to get beer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go okay. What's the best debut album of all time?
Stone Roses.
Cool. Next question.
We're doing a quick fire round.
I haven't got any quick fires.
What's yours?
Best debut album of all time?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, it's probably the Stone Roses, but it's between that and August and Everything After and the Counting Crows. I don't know if I could pick a favourite.
It's difficult. It should change.
Yeah, it's not. There's definitely moments where one is more appropriate than the other. I mean,
Yeah.
August and Everything After is a pretty damn beat album in general.
We got a bit drunk last night and we played some Counting Crows. None of us can sing very well. You're obviously the best, I think, at singing. But,
yeah, but I think
you wouldn't play any Stone Roses songs because it's bloody difficult.
Well, singing Counting Crows is extremely difficult. I think one of the reasons, what's his name, Adam Duritz?
Yeah.
Duritz? I think one of the reasons that they are so good is that it sounds kind of effortless, but his range and energy that he puts into the vocals is ridiculous.
They probably should have stopped after their first or second album.
Should have stopped after the last track on the first album.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, quick fires. I should actually. One thing I want to talk about was merchandise, because that's something you do very well indeed. And
Thank you.
Whether it's like, well, it's mostly t-shirts, right? In fact, is it all t-shirts?
I mean,
Not stickers.
stickers and t-shirts. I think I ruined a lot of people's lives with my stickers over the years. We once got some really cheap ass stickers done, and they were kind of paper ones, and we went around like loads of bars, and then I got a phone call the next day going, these stickers don't peel off. And like we had to go around and like scrape them all off all of the bars, everywhere. It took like hours and hours. So always buy good vinyl stickers.
Because they actually peel off if you put it somewhere.
If you want to, I mean, I don't know why you peel the sticker off. I think it's rude.
Where's the worst place you've put a sticker? Like most inappropriate, like Savoy or something like that.
I put one on Richard Seale's back for about 4 hours during a rum fest, which was funny.
What was that? Which one? Which sticker?
Which sticker? It was probably like it might have been like a You've Been Tiki'd one when we used to do like the
so it's not
UK
vaguely
Tiki
appropriate
team
then.
stuff. Yeah, it wasn't like, you know, I had sugar to my rug. He doesn't.
That would be amusing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Not for him, I shouldn't think. I don't think
No.
you'd find the funny side of that at all. And yeah, t-shirts. I mean, you've almost created like an apparel brand alongside the bars in many ways. And it's like every time
It's not quite boohoo.
but every time I come up here, it's like, oh yeah, we got some new t-shirts. You must be like printing new designs like every few weeks for plus all the bars.
We did a few the other day, and I was like, yeah, we'll just get a few, and it's like, spend like $6,000 on some t-shirts. And I'm like, oh my god, and I think we just give them away mostly. You know, it's like we're not very good at selling them. But I don't know. I think every good dive bar should have a t-shirt. You know. And they do, you know, and they should have loads of stickers that you can give to people or put in other people's bars, and you know, hopefully people like you putting the stickers in the bars. Some I assume don't. They hate it in the Langham and places like that.
They don't like that much. I think also, again, like it's sort of good marketing, isn't it? Because especially if you're selling t-shirts,
Yeah.
like you're literally, someone is paying you to advertise your brand.
We've had a few bands who've like bought them, and then they've like, you know, they've worn them on stage. You know, it's like, fuck, that's cool. You know, Bunny Jackson's t-shirt on. Yeah,
and especially if you can make them desirable, because some of the ones, I mean, some of the Crazy Pedros ones were awesome or are awesome.
Do you know what? When we did them, and I think Ped's was the sort of was the first one we went kind of leaned really heavy into that merch side. And, you know, we had like beer pong kits and we had like Pedro's colouring books.
Backpack.
And all these, the backpack, man, amazing. But we went to Glastonbury one year and we had like the brand new Pez t-shirts on. It just said like Crazy Pedros at the back, just a little writing. And like, I don't know, the face on it, something like this. And the amount of people like at Glastonbury went, oh my God, Crazy Pedros, I love that place. And you're like, oh my God, you know, this is, it shouldn't be like that. It's kind of cool. So, you know, I think it does really, like,
Yeah.
it does more than sometimes than you actually think it can do.
I think so. It sort of creates like a cult sort of status amongst the brand
Yeah.
that exists outside of the bar or restaurant itself, which is hard to do, I think. Like, you know, you can go to a nice place and drink the cocktails or the beers or whatever and go, yeah, I like this place. But once you leave, you've left and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Whereas
you might have nicked a menu or
you
something.
might have done. God, it's been a long time since I nicked a cocktail menu.
Well, you get given them, don't you, Trish? You're a big deal these days.
I don't get given cocktail menus. Like,
You know?
in fact, if I did, I probably wouldn't take it. Like,
Yeah.
unless it was like,
You should always take a pen, just sign it and give it them back.
there you go. No, unless they're like, it's because some people have gone like overboard with cocktail menus, like real sort of incredible, expensive works of art almost.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't steal it because it's like these.
Well,
it
no,
costs
you,
like
you,
20
you
quid
can
each.
never do that. I mean, it's always interesting. I see these things, and you know, I know how. I mean, look at those ones in front of you. Like they're in the worst thing.
Greasy
You know,
spoon,
yeah.
wrapper, yeah.
We've had that since day one. No, of course we haven't. But you know that I know how much that costs to print. It still costs some money. And then you see people with a beautiful book that's like properly bound and this, and it's like, oh my God, it's like, I mean, it's never in Manchester, these places. I mean, Schofield's and Hawksmoor's menus are beautiful, in both senses. I mean, Schofield's is obviously a pretty good bar.
Did your like Wilderness spend a decent amount of money on the menu? Was that even that pretty kind of basic?
I mean, it's an interesting way of saying too much money. But yeah, a decent amount of money. A horrible amount of money. I mean, they weren't that great, but they still cost a lot because you wanted to be a bit... Yeah, it's... You know, it's... I don't know, I think the menu is probably as important aesthetically as it is about what's on it as well, isn't it? So, you know, sometimes you need to do that, but you wouldn't want that in a... Like, that's almost perfect in here.
Which bar are you most proud of?
Difficult question. Do you know? I think I'm probably the most proud of Southside. You know, in a weird way. And you know, I love them all. But Southside, you know, we because we built that in lockdown, and you know, lockdown was. It was a lot of things for a lot of people, and you know, it was between horrendous and kind of wonderful for me. And you know, you're always against the clock when you open a bar, and you're like, right, we've got the lease, brilliant, right? Let's build, and you're like, let's do it in 3 minutes because we need to open the doors because we've got to pay the rent. And Southside, we had all of this time. You know, it used to be my little local bar, and we did it there, and just like. You know, I built a wall. I learned how to build a wall. I bricklayed a wall because we had time to, and nobody else was around. So we did that, and we did all these things. So, and also, you know, it's gone from doing not much to being really, you know, really successful. So you got to be proud for various reasons. And I think, you know, that one is amazing.
I think it's worth emphasizing that when you do these builds, there's always a team of builders, and you work with certain people to get this stuff done, but you guys are pretty hands-on. Like, you're normally in there grafting away, laying a floor or doing some tiling or sticking posters up on the ceiling or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I try to get Bart to do most of it these days. I'm getting too old for it. But you know, we put the floor down in here, and you know, it took ages. But you know, we save a load of money. You know, we don't really pay ourselves for any of the bigger outsiders things. So. That's free labour. That's a really cheap way of putting the floor down.
And you get it done the way you want it.
Yeah. Obviously, it's obviously perfect as well.
Imperfectly perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, we've got our build team that we use. Like, you know, Rick and the guys are amazing, and you know, I remember like right at the start, it was like, you know, when we did sort of Liars and Cane and Grain. It's like, I've got to get these plans, and let's have this plan for this, and we do this. And now, you know, like, I don't want to waste time and money on getting somebody to do the plans. So, you know, and Rick goes, what do you want? And then, you know, we tell him what we want, and then 4 weeks later, we're like, we don't want that. Well, let's change that. You know, he's like, but it works really well. You know, if you've got the same person all the time,
they understand.
They know this is good. Are you sure you want that there?
Yeah. And like understand the things that are going to disappoint you.
I
don't need to necessarily pick up the phone and say, how do you want this? Because they know the answer already.
Yeah. If you're calling me, no. But yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, look, Southside for me. But you know, it's also, I love this place. I love bunnies. I love all of them. We're building a little bunnies in Didsbury at the minute, like a bunnies outpost. It's going to be called. That should open in like about a month. And that's going to be, you know, a little dive bar in quite a nice, affluent town or village.
A little bit of debauchery amongst the middle classes. Yeah.
This is the dive bar in the Michelin star.
Yeah, there you go. Michelin star area. Dive bar. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and that's fun. I keep telling everyone I'll see them tomorrow to do some work, and then I seem to get drunk doing things. But yeah. I don't know. But Bunny's Junior's in Southside, but Southside's probably up there with the one I'm kind of. It had the most. I don't know. It changed the most, I guess.
I think having opened a few bars myself, one of the things I found was that it would have been a hell of a lot easier if every bar was the same, and you didn't have all these different concepts that you were kind of managing the brand identity of. And like you, I was sort of more on the creative side of these places and not so, you know, involved in the operations.
Yeah.
And you've done exactly the same thing, but you've obviously made a success of it. I mean, there must be a dozen brand concepts at least that you've gone through, and most of them are still operational now, right? If you include the Liars Group and
no, absolutely. I think is of course 100 times easier opening a second site that's exactly the same. You know, and you take the good bits from the other site and you add a few other little bits, and every time it evolves a little bit, but it's, you know, it's got the same bones.
Yeah, you copy paste kind of thing with a little bit of modification.
And do you know what? I just find that pretty boring.
Yeah, that's the thing. So do you think that's why you've done so many, because it's just not that much of a challenge?
Yeah. And you know, I've opened quite a few dive bars, you know, recently, and I'm opening another one, but they can all be different whilst being a dive bar. You know, none of them have to be the same at all, and that goes from the aesthetics to the menu to the music to everything. You know, in here they play music that I'd love to hear in a nice hotel bar. Because my God, when we came in before,
it was an absolute fucking racket.
I thought I was going to die.
I don't even know. I couldn't even classify the genre of that music.
I don't know what they were called, but they had the word death in the title and the band name. But you know, it's like, that works. But they play that in here, and then they'll put like Britney Spears on.
So yeah, I get that. Like when we were in bar operations, it was always like, well, look, we've got a new site. I want to do something different. Because also I feel like, especially because most of my bars are in London, if you open the same thing, you're sort of stealing something from that original one. You know, and there's a risk.
And it kind of takes away from that.
Yeah, it does.
What was the bar that you opened, and like you were like, we have to get this ceiling paper, and it was that
Whistling Shop,
Lincruster, which is beautiful. I recommend getting a professional in to install the Lincruster. So it's kind of plaster, like almost like pushed into between two bits of paper. Yeah, it's heavy as hell.
Yeah, you've got like maybe a 10 mil, maybe not even 10 mil plaster relief.
Yeah, but that your business partners were like, "Are you mad?"
Yeah, it was like
spend
eight grand or something on just papering the ceiling.
But that is that difference, you know. The old boozers in London, they all have that. Yeah, that's all you could buy.
That was it.
You know, and you know, we put some of that in the Bay Horse, and it was important to put these things in. It was like, you know, you kind of balance that with some cheap anaglypta on the walls, which kind of worked well with it anyway, and that's like 12 quid a roll compared to 250 quid a roll or something. Yeah. And it's like, you know, these little bits, but you do that in the second bar you open, all of a sudden that ceiling that costs 8k is now 16k, and actually you devalued that 8k one. So yeah, you've got to keep The cool little elements.
Keep it fresh. And like, even if you're kind of, because like what you've done with Bunny Jackson's, for example. So we've got Bunny Jackson's, the original,
Yeah.
which is like half a mile from here. Bigger. It's still dive bar, but it's sort of dive bar on a scale, right?
Yeah.
And the wings and the food sort of offering. Then you've got Junior Jackson's here, much smaller basement, and no food. Thank God.
Hang on. Oh no, we at one point we had like this weird chute, and they made it in the kitchen, and it came down this tube.
Oh, from up.
Yeah,
upstairs.
It was a good idea, executed terribly, and yeah, you did not want that food.
So that because
and then I think we gave hot dogs away, and people were like, "Nah,
no, I don't want to eat in here. Yeah. It's like a strip club.
we're gonna have to change our clothes after sitting on the seat.
I know.
For like, 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's Bunny's. So the sort of Bunny's brand, if you like.
Yeah.
You've got Bunny's Country Club now as well.
Yeah.
Not far from here, which is more countrified, a bit less divey, right?
It's a bit less divey. Yeah. I mean, we wanted that to be a bit about the food. We want it to be a lot about the music, and the music in there. It's 6 days a week, live music, all country. Like Jake Berger actually, when we were in Mexico, was like, he gave me the name. He was like, "You should open up Bunny's Country Club." I was like, "Okay."
Because Country Club is
Thanks, Jake.
a good name. I mean, so because Country Club in the US is a weird one, right? I think probably it was originally a sort of gentleman's club, kind of fishing.
It's a bit of sort of a jump over your shoulders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But there are a handful of dive bars out there which have Country Club affixed to the end.
Yeah.
Bushwick being probably the most famous because that's the pickleback bar, right? Or supposedly.
Me and Jake once met the guy who invented the pickleback, and we spent hours with this guy. And it's just a really weird guy. And at the end, like we were going through it all, and we were like, "Oh my God, you invented the pickleback!" And at the end, I think as we were leaving, he was like, "No, it wasn't me." It was really weird. It was an odd night. I might have got most of that wrong, but I was quite drunk. But
It's a funny.
he was just sat on a chair on his own by the door. I think he might have been a doorman.
In dive bars, the people you meet and the stories they start waxing on about, it is remarkable, and you never know whether they're telling the truth. They're usually not. But do you remember we were in Trisha's in Soho, and we started chatting to a guy. I think he designed the Shard building. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Or we'd just been to the toilet.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I remember I was in Barbados once, and I was in the Barbados equivalent of a dive bar. It was at Oyston's Fish Market, which is
I like it over there.
yeah, it's good.
Apart from the fish.
Yeah, you don't need fish, do you? Which is like a lot of outdoor fish sellers and all this sort of stuff. But there's also bars. It's kind of like a big market thing, and there's bars and stuff as well.
It's a bit of a tourist trappy type.
It is,
as well, but
yeah,
there's some
yeah.
cool little places. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some cool little spots. And I was in a spot where the locals are drinking, and everyone was drinking like strong, sweet, kind of like Buckfast, like, that they drink in the Caribbean, these sort of sweet, spiced kind of things. Bit
Like
of
overly bright red or something.
Yeah. There was a bit of rum going on as well, and obviously beers. And I was chatting to these two guys, both quite a bit older than me, Barbados guys. One of them was like, I was able to pretty much hold a conversation with him. He was kind of okay. Like I was getting the gist of what he was saying and everything. The other guy was off his noodle, like blind drunk, like really in a bad state, but in a suit jacket and like kind of dressed up quite smart. Anyway, I told this guy I was flying out of Barbados the next morning, and he goes, "You're flying the next morning?" He's the air traffic controller, and it turned out
was leathered.
the guy was leathered. It turned out the guy who was leathered was on shift the next day as an air traffic controller, and like, I mean, they might have been making it up, but they had no.
Never get a job at Heathrow.
No, I don't think so. But this guy was like, he was staggering around the corner, sort of staring at the walls, like, and I was like, oh, shit, this guy's gonna be like handling the takeoff of my plane in the morning.
Do you know what? Barbados is a weird one. I've been there a few times. I once went with Andrea to this weird. I don't know how it happened, and we might have gone with like either Jill and Jules or maybe with Richard and Gail, but who all live in Barbados, obviously. But we went to this house in the what's like that sort of little private area in Barbados called that. It's like that. It's like, I don't know, a gated community.
Like expensive bit.
Yeah. So we went to this place, and it was owned by this jockey. And like, so there's quite big
Horse jockey or disc jockey?
A horse jockey. He's owned by this horse jockey, and there was somebody from Emmerdale there, some woman like with blonde hair from Emmerdale, and someone else, and we got absolutely levered. We were playing pool in this house, and all of a sudden, you know, as the night goes, and you know, it's like we like to be like the last ones always to leave, and everyone had gone, and these people came in. I think me and Andrew were playing pool or something, and they were like, what are you doing here still? Why are you here in my house? And they kicked us out of the house, and we had to like climb over the gates to get out. And we couldn't get a taxi. We had to like walk back or something. It's a really weird thing. I don't even know why I told you that. I think I'm drunk. Yeah, weird, man.
You've got a lot of anecdotes like that, though.
I have.
You've seen.
I'm stopping myself telling you.
You've seen things.
I have. I'm old. I have seen things. Yeah. Let's leave that.
There's not many of them are very PG though, are
No, they're not.
Not that this podcast is PG, but I think it's probably a 15, maybe not an 18 or X-rated.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an 18.
No, I don't want to do an X-rated one. No.
If it goes on long enough, that's usually what happens. You know? So I remember when we did an interview with Class magazine with Hamish about a year or so ago, and it was kind of a bio on what you're up to, what you've done, and what you're going to do next. And I remember you saying specifically in it that I'm not doing any new concepts.
Yeah.
That's it. You did end up doing a couple of new concepts, I think. I think Lost Cat came after that, possibly.
No, it didn't. I think I'm still true to my words on that. I think the idea was, and it is still, that we concentrate on the things that we've got, and we don't open anything else. We don't get any more. We don't rent anything else. So I think since I did that, we opened Country Club and Bunny's Karaoke, both of which were in the building that we rent anyway. So I'm putting that down to that's all right.
Oh, there was Juice Box.
Yeah, but that was an awkward one because we sort of just bought that. My business partner Matt started that, and it didn't go as well as planned. So we're obviously doing all different bits and with it.
Yeah.
So not so.
Yeah.
But basically, I think I've covered myself.
Yeah, I think so far.
Yeah.
And do you think so? You're going to stick by that? You think that's it? Like,
well, interestingly, no. Do you know what? I think we will. I think there's a lot more to come within these sites. You know, I think you always think in your own head a bit that, you know, if it isn't broke, then don't try and fix it. But then some places, they all need this refresh all the time. I think there's enough work to do with, we've got 7 junkyards and 7 bigger boat sites, soon to be 8 because we're making Juice Box into Bunny's Outpost, or that might be making 6 into 7. I don't know. I should probably count. And
so that's going to be the Bunny's Outpost.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I want any more. Like I said, ages ago, 3 is the right number. It really is. 23, crazy. More than that, you can't. You need to give yourself to these venues. You need to be there for this venue. You need to. Know everything, good and bad, what's happening, and you can't.
Yeah.
You can't be everywhere at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, no, I don't. So yeah, I don't think we're going to open anymore. I don't think I want to open anymore, but I do want the ones that we've got to, be as good as they can. And when they're as good as they can be, then hopefully they stick around for some time. It's about, seemingly at the minute in 2025, it's about trying not to close your venue, because there's a lot that are closing. Some great places go in, and that's scary, for operators. It's there's pay rises to come in April. There's weird NI stuff that I've got no idea what any of that's about, because I'm not very good with them things. But I know it's going to cost a load of money. It's like you don't want to put your price up. You want the doors to keep swinging. You want the people to come through the doors and buy food and beer and spirits at the right price. You don't want to overcharge anyone, and that's becoming harder and harder today because you're kind of being forced into it. It's don't know. I think that there's a weird thing that's happening that none of us really know what's going to happen around the corner a bit.
Yeah.
It's too many places are already closed.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, we're going to wrap this up. Let's try and end on a
On
positive.
that down.
Yeah. No,
Jesus
but that's as well. We need to end on something positive. So let's have a little tequila.
Absolutely.
Because that's.
Is this the most you've drank in an interview so far?
No.
Oh my God! Right.
No.
Must try harder.
Well, I mean, it's the most I've drunk in an hour. But the Charlie McLean interview was a lot.
Pretty boozy.
Oh. We started with the Negroni. He made me a Negroni at lunchtime. And we sat down with this Negroni, undiluted, straight. He just keeps the ingredients in the fridge. And so probably for just ease of like, I can mix this quickly. Pours it out, equal parts. And then we started with that. And that was mostly gone before we even started the interview. And then whiskey. And we drank a lot. It probably wasn't that easy to tell, especially if you listen to the audio version of the podcast. But I would say between us, we drank at least a bottle of whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, we drank quite a bit last night, though.
We did drink quite a lot of it last night, and we're going to probably drink quite a lot tonight.
Yeah.
And the Charlie interview was 3 hours, or it was actually nearly 4 hours. So it was spread out over quite a long period. So yes, you are, I think, probably in terms of like pound for pound, like grams of alcohol per minute, you're winning. You've got what you wanted out of it.
Yes.
That's what this is what it will go down at.
I was getting worried for a second.
So, I mean, let's finish up on a positive note. Like, I always like to ask a sort of question about legacy and what you're leaving behind. What do you think people in 10, 20, 30 years will sort of describe your operations, especially in Manchester? How will they sort of look back and go, oh, right, you know, this was this and that was that? What will they say about what you did?
Man, I don't know. That's a very, very difficult question to ask a guy who doesn't really like talking about himself. But, you know, I think legacy is an interesting thing because, you know, we all want to leave something that's made a difference to people, be it staff, guests, business partners, lovers and friends. You know, you want to do something in your life that's kind of
meaningful.
It was worth doing. Yeah. It has to be worth doing. And I don't know what will be left behind. I don't think you ever know until it's gone, do you? You know, I just alcohol and bars and going out. They're about having fun, and they're about, you know, people seem to have got confused about that over recent years, and you know, well, for decades really. But it's about creating memories, isn't it? It's about making everyone have a great time, and if you can do all of that without pissing too many people off along the way, then I think you've probably done something okay. Which doesn't really sound like a legacy, does it? But yeah, I don't know.
I get it. There's some humility there. You're not thinking too much about legacy. It's just thinking about what you're doing right now, right? And
yeah.
making the best of it.
And I guess, you know, it's when you start thinking too much about the future, then you kind of forget a bit about what you're doing at the moment, don't you, as well? And you know, you almost need to be right in it at the time. And you need, you know, these bars, they all change daily, you know, taste change, you know. Who knew like Manchester had like 12 Irish bars open like in the last month.
Did it?
Yeah, you know, it's like, you know, they can't make enough Guinness to this. Who would have thought that, you know? They've got a good marketing department.
Actually, maybe that's a good way to finish, actually. As an ambassador of Manchester, unofficially elected, but nevertheless, what can you say about this city and what it has to offer as perhaps somewhere that's not, I wouldn't say neglected, but nevertheless, every other city in the UK lives under the shadow of London, right?
Yeah. I think London is always going to have that thing. And, you know, you look at awards, you look at things. Shit, we didn't even talk about awards.
We can do that.
But
I'll just edit out the bit where I said, right, let's close up.
Yeah. But I think you know, Manchester. I don't think Manchester's ever been in the shadow of London, but I think that you know, maybe almost a bit the other way around for many things, especially music. But
yeah,
You know, London seems like a place where it's a bit easier to get an award or to do this, and I've always kind of thought of that, and of course it's because everyone lives there who does, you know, does these things, and it's not about chasing awards, it's not about anything like this. Manchester, I think, is quite a unique city where, I mean, people should go to bed a lot earlier than they do. You know, like it is a party city, and you know, there's no rhyme or reason why it should be so crazy on a Tuesday night and everyone's having the best time ever. It's like, does anyone even have a job? Well, they do, but it is. But Manchester's that. Manchester's about fun, and you can tell. I think when you come up from London or anything, I think people are almost shocked about how friendly everyone is in Manchester, how generous people are, and how much they just kind of care about having a good time.
Yeah.
And you know, that's looking after themselves and other people at the same time. It's you know, the greatest city in the world, and because of the people, you know, some of the architecture is all right as well.
Right, let's finish there. Everyone come to Manchester. But I mean, I'll vouch for it as well. It is so much fun. And especially in the Northern Quarter where, well, maybe not quite so much recently, but about 50% of the bars belong to you.
Yeah, I had a bad roll on Monopoly. But
You've definitely got red hotels on Thomas Street, though.
Yeah. I've never won a game of Monopoly, by the way.
Well, neither have I, as you well know,
Yeah.
because we do regularly play it and regularly pay Jake Berger quite a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm sure he cheats.
Yeah. All right, on that bombshell, we'll leave it there.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.